Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 2. I'm so excited to be here. I got the first one out of the way, and now this doesn't feel so intimidating like the first time did. I'm definitely feeling still like a little nervous, but more confident. Like I can handle this. I can do this. So today I actually have some notes, and so I'm gonna. If you're watching the video, I'm like looking back and forth because I have my notes on a different computer. So hopefully this one goes smoothly and it will be of benefit to you, that you will resonate with it and get some good information out of it. So first off, I do want to start with the cleansing breath because I need to center myself, and I think it's a good way to remind you as a listener to take a minute for yourself and like just kind of drop back in and get grounded. So whatever you're doing, I mean, if you're driving, don't close your eyes, but like if you can safely close your eyes, I would suggest to just kind of exhale, close your eyes. If it resonates, put your hands on your chest over your heart. Take a deep breath into the nose. Hold at the top and exhale through the mouth. One more time. And open your eyes. That helps me out a lot. So hopefully that helped you out too. And, it just helps you recenter and get back to a safe, like, present space. It's easy to feel very overwhelmed, stressed out with life, and you might have a family or just work or whatever, and it's easy to get overstimulated and it's like you're rushing all the time. And that's too much. It's too hectic and it's not beneficial to, like, your body needs a break. So highly recommend doing cleansing breaths anytime you feel stressed, or even when you're not stressed, even like first thing in the morning or right before you go to bed, to just take a second and just breathe, because you need to breathe obviously to live, but that intentional deep breath and like long exhale is so beneficial, and so it feels good. So yeah, that's a good way to start the episode. It helped me out and I'm feeling pretty good. Okay, so the topic for today, I'm trying to like look at the camera, but I'm looking at myself on screen and the camera's like up here, so it's different. Anyway, so the topic today is embracing uncomfortable emotions. Why would you want to do that? Most people, when they think of uncomfortable emotions, they're like, this is uncomfortable. Obviously, like there's resistance there because it's obviously uncomfortable. It feels yucky or like stressful potentially. Like you don't know how to handle it. I think that's pretty common for most people. But it's very important to allow yourself to feel all ranges of emotions, to be an emotionally healthy person. And this is something I'm working on even now as I record this, like, or not as I recorded, but just, in my recent life this week, even learning how to intentionally visit these emotions so I can process them in a healthy way. So, in my opinion, there's no such thing as a negative emotion. They're just uncomfortable. So, like, at least like growing up and stuff, my printer just started like blinking. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, so growing up, it was kind of like, I don't think it was intentionally like taught this way, but it's just kind of like what I gathered from society was, anger is bad, especially like rage, like very intense anger And also, when you're crying, I'm a crier. I'm like, if you know me, I cry all the time about, like, I cry when I'm happy. I cry when I'm sad. I cry when I'm mad, especially when I'm mad. Um, I'm just one of those people I'm just a crier. My husband is like the complete opposite. He never cries about anything. And that totally goes with how we were raised. Like, my dad's the same way. He's a crier. Um, and a lot of that comes from like holding an emotion, and then that's the only way it can come out, or I should say that's one of the ways it comes out, is by crying. um I think it's important to cry. That's part of this too. But you know, it's in anyway, how do I say this? I was kind of like under the impression anger was bad and crying, like, don't cry, it's okay. Like, when I would start to get emotional growing up, it would kind of just try to get squashed quickly because it made everyone else around me uncomfortable. They didn't know how to deal with it. And I can totally, I mean, at the time as a child, like, I couldn't understand, and it felt like weird, like, why I felt like I couldn't express my emotion. And then that leads to like all kinds of stuff growing up. You get angsty and mad and bitter and, like, those teenage emotions. But now as an adult, and especially as a parent, those feelings still come up for me, where I'm like, oh, no, no, don't cry, it's okay, it's okay. And I don't like allow my kids to like feel it and experience it. And it's like, I need to check myself and give them that space to do that, as I also learn to give myself the space to do that. um so yeah, they're uncomfortable, but not bad in nature. It's more how do you handle it. That's what makes it, that's the difference. um is how do you work through the discomfort to process it in a healthy way and release it. um and a point I do want to make is that you can feel two things at the same time that seem contradictory, and it might not make sense in your logical mind to, like, because it's opposites, but it's completely normal. So, like, an example I can think of is feeling scared and feeling brave. I mean, heroes, if you think of anyone you view as a hero, like emergency personnel or just anybody, it doesn't have to be anybody like that. Or even like a superhero, you know they're they're brave because they're rescuing somebody. They are doing something extraordinary, but it doesn't mean they're not scared at the same time. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm not a firefighter. I don't know any firefighters personally, but I could imagine, if I was a firefighter, that I would know it is my responsibility to handle an emergency situation, but I would still feel scared to do it. How could you not feel afraid? um in that type of emergency situation. So something I can resonate with is doing this podcast, and me being scared and nervous and uncomfortable, but still feeling brave enough and proud of myself that I actually recorded it and released it to the public. Like, I felt both of those things at the same time. And that's pretty neat. It's kind of weird. Like, it's confusing, I think, sometimes, to feel contradictory emotions at the same time, but it is normal. That's just part of being human. Sometimes you just in your feelings, you feel things, and that's just part of life. And so if uncomfortable emotions are not processed in a healthy way and they're not released, they get stored in the body and lead to worse shit. To be honest, like, okay, usually it ends up manifesting into like a bigger thing, whether it's a physical issue, an emotional outburst, or like a mental issue. Like, it's like it just keeps compounding and piling up, and eventually it's going to come out in some sort of way. Like, there's no way around that. So an example of this is partners, people in I mean, you don't even have to be in a relationship with them, but even just like siblings or friends or whatever, two people, multiple people feeling resentment toward each other because they're not communicating their needs and frustrations, their desires, they're not talking about anything, and it's just piling up. And then it leads to like deep-seated resentment or like years of bitterness, that's hard to like unpack and release. That's happened to me personally in my life. I mean, in my marriage, I can admit that I was bitter for a long time because I didn't communicate well. I mean, it was like just our dynamic was like a hot mess because we were not mature enough to realize a lot of our problems would have been resolved if we would have just talked and been honest and just been real. Like, what are my expectations? What are my needs? What are my boundaries? And like, just communicate. It's a basic communication. And I'm just now figuring this out, and that's just one example. I'm sure a lot of you can relate, whether it's at your job or with family members, a partnership, a friendship. You could see how this could happen, where little things add up and turn into big things, and then it turns into this huge argument or like years of resentment towards someone because it just wasn't or it wasn't addressed. A resource I have to expand on this or to direct you to learn more about how to deal with things like this would be Meet the Freemans. That's their website, Meet the Freemans. And also they have like Instagram, and I'm sure they have other social media. I just only know of their Instagram account, Meet the Freemans. And their podcast is the Empowered Couples Podcast. I highly recommend you check this out even if you're not in a relationship, it's such good information of, this is stuff we should have been taught like as children, just basic communication skills, learning about your own needs and how to express those to other people. Excuse me, whoops, my headphone just fell out. Just basic things like that, learning how to interact with other people. And as your dynamic changes, as your life changes, how do you communicate? It's such good information. So I highly recommend that. And they also have a book called The Argument Hangover. Highly recommend that. And I'm going to put all this in the show notes for you, so you can refer back to it after the episode's done. So why does this help me to intentionally visit uncomfortable emotions? Because it's there to teach me something. I've opened my perspective. I've opened my mind to see that these uncomfortable things are there to help me grow, and they're there to help me learn. And I'm not a victim. Like, a victim mentality is a choice. And me reframing this uncomfortable emotion, maybe I'm sad or angry at somebody or feeling insecure, that's there to teach me. It's empowering to me to realize that I can take this uncomfortable situation and become stronger from it. So that's why I do it. And I've just now, like, this is very recent that in the past month or two, that I've started journaling, which I'm going to expand on this. That's one of my favorite things to help me do this, is journaling. But it's very recent that I've started intentionally trying to process these things. And I've noticed a lot of benefit because it's helped me kind of process things out. And it's not in my head because I'm writing it out, but it helps me process it. So that way I'm not just like picking fights as a way to process it, like in the past. I'm kind of I'm like, I still have a tendency to do this. So of just like picking fights when I'm mad. I just start talking and I won't be quiet, and I will just, before I even give myself a chance to like process, what am I actually upset about? Is this worth even bringing up? I would just skip all that and go to like, okay, I'm going to talk about it, and not talk about it like in a mature way, but like I'm just going to start yelling and being emotional, like in a highly emotionally charged state, being mad and yelling and not speaking productively, not having an actual discussion about it, like with the other person, um, in a calm, mature way. But like I would just start, it was like there was no thought process going on. I was just like blabbing, right? And the journaling has helped me avoid that, because I actually would give myself the space to let out all my thoughts as I feel them. And I will expand on like how I actually write it out, but I would let my thoughts out until my brain like was empty, and like I finally felt like, okay, I've let everything out, and I would reread it and look it over, and kind of, once I felt like I fully processed it, then I would be fine. And then that would lead me to having an actually productive conversation after the fact with whoever. um it's typically my husband, honestly, but you know what I'm saying, after I let all the emotions out of it and put it on the paper, then I can like look at the situation clearly, and then if there is anything else that needs to be discussed, I can discuss it then. And that's actually a productive conversation where we can just talk, and we're not mad, we're not yelling, like we're just literally talking. And that's the goal, is right, is to have conversations like that with the people you care about, or even just people around you. Even if you disagree on something, is the ideal situation is to just be able to talk to them about it without all the emotion getting in the way of a productive conversation, right? So, like I said, journaling is my favorite. It's the thing I do the most, and I feel like it's the most helpful for me. So how I start this is that I start with whatever feeling it is. So if I'm feeling annoyed, I'll be like, I am feeling annoyed because blah blah blah. Excuse me. If I'm insecure, if I'm sad, I will say I am insecure because blah blah blah, or I am sad because this happened, and I will just continue. I'll just write it out, even if it doesn't make sense. That's the thing. Don't write, like, if you're gonna do this, do it and write whatever comes up. Like, it doesn't have to make logical sense. Um, and also something I do is I let out my fears on purpose. A lot of the time, our fears are probably not rational fears. It's like things built up from our past, or just from, I don't know. It's usually like things that once you write them out, you realize, oh, I'm kind of like this, I'm hyping this up too much. Like this is not like a logical thing, or like it's not always based in truth. So something I do, like when I write these fears out, I'm like acknowledging, okay, this is a fear of mine. And then I think, and I'm like, this is me writing it out. What is the worst possible scenario if this happened? What would happen to me? Or how would I respond? How would I deal with it? What would that look like? And then I'd also ask myself, is this fear based out of truth? Is there even truth to this fear? And yeah, like I said, a lot of times there's not. It's just me being insecure, or me kind of overthinking something to the point that it's, when I actually think of it more like analytically, which is not my default by by any means. I'm very much like an emotional person. So like when I actually try to think of things logically and analyze them, most of the time I'm just in my feelings, if there's not like really a lot of truth to my fears, I kind of like make them bigger than they should be. You know what I mean? So here's an example of a situation I journaled on. I was feeling insecure about myself, and I'm going to be kind of vague, but I was feeling insecure in a certain situation because I was comparing myself to other people, which led to me feeling inadequate about myself. Like these people had different skill sets than me, they looked differently than me, which led to me feeling like, okay, I'm not good enough because I can't do that, or because I don't look that way, or you know what I'm saying, stuff like that. So I'm writing this out, and then I kind of realize, wait a sec, that has nothing to do with me. Just because someone else has a skill set that I don't have, or just because they look different, or they act different, or have a different job, or like it could be literally anything. Just because that's the thing, like that doesn't take away any value that I have at all. Like if like once I started to think about it, I realized like, oh, that's really not a big deal. Why am I letting other people take away my worth? They're not even, and let me say this too, like these people like were not engaging with me, you know what I mean? Like they weren't starting any drama, or this was just like me observing people and then feeling insecure about myself. That doesn't make sense. Like that, like my value doesn't change just because someone else has value doesn't mean my value goes away, type of thing. And like that's the stuff I would say to like my friends or say to other people, like without hesitation, like, girl, like, are you kidding me? Like you're shit. Like I wouldn't, like I would automatically like want to encourage someone in that way because that's how I see them, but like I couldn't see myself that way, you know? And I'm sure you can resonate with that. Like, I feel like that's kind of common, is like our own self-confidence is less based, and like how we would talk to people we love and care about is different than how we talk to ourselves. Yeah, so that's just an example. And like I literally kept journaling, I kept writing all these things out, and eventually by the end of it, I felt great about myself, and I was like, okay, I'm awesome, and I can value myself, and I can value others, and other people can value me, and they can also value other people, and it's okay. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so another resource for processing uncomfortable emotions is somatic therapy. So the word somatics is a practice that uses the mind-body connection to help you survey your internal self and listen to signals your body sends about areas of pain, discomfort, or imbalance. That was from Healthline. I didn't just like make that up myself. So, and I did learn this too, the word somatic, it's rooted from the Greek word soma, which means body. So basically that mind-body connection. And basically like ways you can process things going on in your mind would be through movement and letting it out through your body. So I just found this lady on Instagram called The Workout Witch. And like I said, I'll link all this in the show notes. And she has different programs and also just shows like little clips on her reels of different movements you could do, and like why you would want to do these movements to release these things from your body, because your body stores that. And it's just so intriguing to me. And I'm currently a student with the Institute of Integrative Nutrition, and one of our modules was actually a workout. It was like this lady was doing a presentation, but it was like a little mini workout thing. And she was like hyping up the crowd, saying affirmations while doing movements. So like each movement was like you would say something else, like I am strong, I am capable, like just different things, and like the motion while you talk. And I think it just the way your brain processes the movement with the thoughts. It's it's just so fascinating to me. Now I don't know much about this personally. Like I've heard about it, but I've just started looking into it. So I haven't like done all these things yet consistently. But is definitely something I want to look into more, because I would love to learn about that further. Something else I love, and this is something I have done, is EFT, emotional freedom technique. It's also called tapping. So basically this stems from Chinese medicine, where there's different meridians on your body, like energy points, and you tap through them physically, like tap your face, tap your body with your hands. So if you're on the YouTube or you're watching the video, like you can see me like tap. So you tap first, they call it the karate chop. So it's on the side, okay, like where your pinky is. If you go down the side of your hand right there on that, where you like karate chop, so you would tap there like with your opposite hand. So I'm holding up my left hand, I tap on the karate chop point with my right hand, and then you say a statement. And then after that, you tap in between your eyebrows, and you say another thing. And then you go to the side of your eyebrow, and then you go under your eye, kind of like on your cheekbone. And then after that, you go under your nose. And then after that, you go under your lip, like on your chin. And then after that, you go right where your collarbone is. And then the last point is kind of like under your armpit, like if you're wearing a bra, like where your bra is on the side of your, like right above your, on your rib cage area, like that. And then the last one actually is on the top of your head on the crown. So yeah, you just go through those while you're talking and saying things and like processing what it could be anything. And by far my favorite, like literally after you listen to this, go look up Brad Yates on YouTube, like do it. He is the best tapping person I've ever, I mean, it's to the point where I will rarely watch anybody else's tapping videos because I love his videos. So I'm like, that's the only one I will resonate with, you know? So Brad Yates, BRADYATES, Brad Yates on YouTube. He's been putting tapping videos out, I mean, maybe 13 years. I don't know, if maybe longer than that. I don't know, but it's been a long time. So he has so many about basically any topic you could think of: sadness, anger, processing emotions, being embarrassed, grieving, I mean, you know, just anything, or even happiness, abundance. That's a big one. Gratitude, you know what I'm saying? Like just all kinds of topics. I would say look through his YouTube channel, and you can kind of just visually see what he does, and you just follow along. He does the tapping on the video, and you can like copy him, you know. I highly recommend that, and I will link that. And also this book was really great. This is by Nick Ortner. It's called The Tapping Solution for Manifesting Your Greatest Self. This one, it's like 21 days of tapping, and like there's different journaling prompts and things, and he kind of walks you through. And this is definitely like feeling uncomfortable emotions, because you start with like your panic response, like your kind of stress response, you know, and then you go through feeling angry and sad, and kind of just intentionally visiting those feelings. And then the tapping helps you like feel it, but realize, okay, I can let this go now. Like you know, like it doesn't have to stay stuck. It's like it's safe to feel this, and it's safe to let it go. And sometimes you have to go through the tapping sessions multiple times in a row to finally feel that calm. But it's super helpful. And a lot of them will be like, you kind of like, before you start, you take a cleansing breath, you kind of rate what you feel, like on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being like intense, I'm feeling this 100%. And then by the end of it, you know, you kind of see, okay, did I go down the scale? Like, am I calming down about this? Do I feel at peace about this type of thing? And it's very helpful to do that. So I highly recommend that. Another one is meditating. I really enjoy meditating. I've kind of been on and off with it. I've done all different types. There's unguided with no noise, where you just kind of sit in silence and just try to breathe through it. You could focus on your breath. You could focus on maybe a noise that is around you. Maybe there's like birds outside, or like the sound of your dryer, or just some random noise, and it's just kind of like intentionally putting focus on something. So there's that. There's also unguided with kind of background noise. YouTube has a lot of ambient music, and I can link some of my favorites. It's just like kind of like that ambient, like it could be like nature sounds, or like, piano, or even like that kind of, I call it chakra music, but it's like, you know, it's just like binaural beats, that kind of like just like weird frequencies. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. And it's just kind of like background noise, but enough noise to kind of get you to focus and like get into that meditative state. My preference is guided meditations. There's a bunch. There's so many different ways you could find out guided meditations on YouTube. Obviously, it has a lot of different people who create guided meditations. And I hope, well, I do have the intention to also do that myself. But yeah, YouTube has a bunch, and Headspace is a great app. Yeah, Headspace is the first one I started with. The first time I ever meditated was with Headspace. Calm is another app. Balance, this is the most recent app I've used, and I'm going to put a link, because for new users with Balance, they give you the first year free, and I think that's so generous, and it's so incredibly helpful to help someone kind of get started with meditating. And usually these apps have different meditations for different topics, like anxiety, depression, like falling asleep meditations, or maybe some for like the morning time, or like I'm exercising, I'm going to do meditation or something. They just have like different choices for you, and I think that's really helpful, especially when you're a beginner, because you might feel overwhelmed, like you might not know where to start. I know that's how I felt when I first started, was that I kind of just, I didn't know where to start. So it was nice to have like different things to click on that kind of helped me make a choice, I guess. And I do like having like someone's voice to focus on, because when you meditate, like you're gonna still think of stuff, like your mind is made to keep making thoughts. The point of meditating is to redirect and focus back on the intention. So a lot of people have the misconception that meditation is to have no thought, and that's just not possible. It's about focus, it's about intention, and learning to redirect your attention on that focus. So sometimes that's just your breath, the inhale and the exhale. Or other times it's someone's voice, or like a certain song, or just whatever, it could be anything. But that's why meditation is so important, I think, because it helps you focus and be present and work on that mindfulness that society nowadays is like, it's way too busy. So it's like we need some sort of grounding, or else you're gonna lose your shit. Like, how are you not gonna be stressed out and tense and upset or angry or whatever? Or you might want to numb and kind of check out mentally, because there's too much going on. Like, you've got to find a way to kind of recenter and ground yourself. Another resource, this is the last one. Look up the holistic psychologist. Just Google her. She's on Instagram, she's on Facebook, she's on probably TikTok and other things. I don't have that, so I don't really care. But all the things. She's on YouTube also. She's working on her third book. She has 2 books that are out, called How to Do the Work and How to Meet Yourself. She also has a membership, which, if you're listening to this, oh man, I don't know, maybe The day I release this, I don't know if it's going to be open, but the day I'm recording this, it might still be open. Dang it. But it's called a self-healer circle. So if it's closed by the time you hear this, just keep that in the back of your head. It opens about every 4 months, I think, but it's her paid membership, private too, where, you know, it's just another community that you can do the work and work on yourself, and you have a safe space to discuss things. And there's a lot more resources she has that's just specific to that. I would highly recommend looking into that. And she also has a podcast. The podcast is wonderful. Her and her partner Jenna are hosts of this podcast called the Self Healers Soundboard, and it's on podcast platforms and also on YouTube. And that's another way to get her resources, just in a different way. She's wonderful. I am so thankful that this woman has decided to break out of conventional psychology and just kind of incorporate that holistic mindset and share it with everyone, because it is so, it's life-changing to people. Like some of the stuff she releases, just even in her Instagram posts, it's just like little quotes, but it's like, oh my God, this is amazing. How did I not realize this? How did I not think of this? You know what I mean? It's so many good nuggets of information from her. So I highly recommend you check her out and follow her and just give her support, engage with her content, because people need to hear that. I really like truly believe that people need to hear stuff like that, and just like recognize that you can break a cycle. You can be the one to change the thought patterns, the behavior patterns that you've done your whole life or that your family has done. Like at any time, you can do that. So I guess to round this out, that's the way that like me visiting my uncomfortable emotions on purpose to process them in a healthy way is a way I've broken cycles. It's a way I've changed my narrative, changed my behavior and my thought process to something more productive and positive. And I'm learning how to communicate better. I'm learning how to process my thoughts, and even just like to feel my feelings and then also think of the situation without my feelings. Do you know what I mean? More just analytically, when previously I was just so in my feelings that would override everything else, and it would cause issues because I couldn't just take the situation for what it was, you know? And I think maybe some of you can relate to that, having that issue too. So I encourage you to do some self-reflection and to incorporate some of these things that I've mentioned into your practice, into your life, and learn how to feel these uncomfortable emotions, because at the end of the day, emotions, they're temporary. They are not forever. They might feel like it. You might hold on to emotions for a long time. It might feel like forever, but but they come in waves. They're literally like waves. They come and they go. And like the cliche saying of like, you need to know what it's like to be sad, so that way you know what it's like to be happy. Like just the opposites, you know, feel the spectrum of emotions. But it's true, you're not going to know if you don't allow yourself to feel all the different things you can feel. And then, you know, you might appreciate happiness more if you felt really fucking sad, you know, or whatever it may be. Just giving yourself that safe space to feel what you need to feel and realize this will pass if I let it pass. If I fight it, there will be issues. The visual I like is that if we think of like, if you're on the beach or in the ocean and there's a wave coming, and if you just stand there, or if you're just kind of treading water and you let the wave pass over you, you know, you might go under for a minute, or, you know, it might kind of get you unsteady if you're standing and the wave kind of goes over you, but it's a lot easier to do that than it is to fight the wave from moving. You can't do that. You can't stop the wave from crashing over you. Like, it's gonna do it whether or not you want it to, type of thing. So it's easier in the long run to just let it pass and realize it will pass if you give it the space to pass. If you fight it, it's going to keep coming up, it's going to keep bothering you, and it's not going to pass all the way. It's just going to still be there bugging you. I hope that makes sense. That's all I have today for the podcast. I hope this resonated with you. If it did, please let me know. You can, just find me on social media and comment or DM me, or if you're watching on YouTube, just write something in the comments saying your thoughts. On Spotify, if you're listening on that, I will have a Q&A box that you can write into, if that works for you. So please share this with people you think would resonate with, and I hope you got something from this. I hope it touched you in a way that you will learn from it. And even if it's not right away, I hope this gives you something to think on and just kind of sit with, where you might get a lesson from it later on. You know what I mean? Sometimes you got to meddle on things and it'll click later on. Anyway, I hope you all have a great day. Thank you so much for your time and listening in. Yeah, I guess that's it. Remember, strive to live a vibrant life. I'll see you next time.